Hi everyone, good afternoon. I am delighted to introduce you to Priscilla. Priscilla is a journalist turned PR expert, and more specifically, the founder of a business that's now intent on helping people understand, in essence, how to better promote themselves so that businesses achieve more visibility and better engagement with their customers. She speaks to us today as an insider with all the knowledge that can sometimes seem daunting when trying to navigate those dreaded letters, PR, and all that they entail. We all know we need to, but how? That's usually our common stumbling block. So hello, Priscilla. It's wonderful to have you here today, not least because we are thrilled you're now going to tell us in this session how we as businesses can make ourselves much more noticeable in both the eyes of the consumer and the media. I believe that what you've come to talk to us about is hugely key, given that most of us, and more than ever today, here at Top Drawer, 2 seconds. Given that there are more of us than ever today, and Top Drawer this week is a clear representation of just how many amazing ideas and concepts have gone on to become successful businesses, and how so many of us have followed the path successfully. But competition's competition, and there is always business targets to achieve. Perhaps in a bit we can get to some of your top tips for business owners today. But I suppose I'd love you to start with maybe a little explanation of your background, introduce yourself, and tell us about what we're going to hear about today.
Oh, hi. No pressure. That's quite a lot of stuff. Gift of the gab. It's going to be fine. So I'm Priscilla. I'm a journalist. I remain a journalist, and I'm nervous about the concept of being a PR expert, although I know I call myself that too. I don't think I am a PR expert. I'm a journalist, and I understand what journalists need and how they need to be sold to, which I guess makes me a PR expert, but there we go. I'm a journalist, I remain a journalist, and my background is journalism. However, in the lockdown, normal story, I found myself posting up some articles on my Instagram, things that had been published under my name, because I had some spare time to do that. And I had a group of small businesses, independent businesses on Instagram saying, how did you do that? Can I have a feature written about myself? How can I better promote my website? No one ever looks at it. I've spent so much money on it. How do I get noticed? And it's all sort of started from there, this particular element of my career. And specifically in that time, I said this in September at the last Top Drawer event, so I hope that I'm not repeating myself, but someone asked me then, can you help me write my newsletter? Because I'm dyslexic, I struggle. So I did. I had a look at it, and she was an artist, and I got halfway down, thinking about what I should write, and I thought to myself, well, hang on, where is this newsletter going? And I said it to her. I said, who is it being sent to? And she said it was being sent to the people who had bought her art. Her art was priced at about £1,500 and up. And I kept thinking to myself, well, if this newsletter goes to people who have bought your art, are they necessarily going to buy again? It's quite rare to find that people keep buying £2,000 worth of art by the same artist over and over again. So she had very little marketing time. She certainly had very little marketing appetite. And I kept thinking to myself, but surely she should be thinking about tomorrow's customer, not yesterday's. And it sort of started from there. And now I find that I absolutely love talking about this, because to me it seems so obvious that if you want to be noticed, you have to stand up and put your hand up and be counted, in essence.
Wow, okay. I love that. I think that's such a common story, isn't it? Of people trying to fill time in lockdown, and then it kind of goes on to be something else. So I am a digital marketer, and I know all too well how important PR is alongside the rest of the marketing mix. But how would you say, what's the best way for people to go about seeking out their own PR as a journalist? How do people get noticed?
I think a big turn-off for journalists, and therefore I think the wider audience, shoppers, customers, is when they think, right, I need to sell something, so let's do some PR. The one thing I absolutely hate, or I feel sad about hearing, is when I have a PR session with somebody, it could be any kind of client, but they say to me, right, so last year I built a cracking website, I spoke at some events, I've been on TikTok, and now I'm going to focus on my PR. Excuse me, I'm going to focus on my PR, and I just think, no, but that is PR. You're already halfway there. Don't think of it as a mountain now to climb. You've got to come in now and see me, and we got to blitz it. No, everything is PR. So actually, I would say, first and foremost, are you doing any of the steps that I just mentioned? How is your website really communicating properly what you do? Are you on the correct social media platforms for what you do? Because tone is very important. You don't want to be singing and dancing on TikTok, but actually selling something quite serious on LinkedIn at the same time. There's a bit of synergy that needs to be thought about. But actually, PR, you're sort of doing it already. I'm doing my own PR right now, sitting here telling you what I do, how I do it, and come and see me later. That's PR. And by being here today, talking to stall holders, perhaps meeting among yourselves, that is PR. You're taking steps towards being noticed. That's sort of where you need to start. You never need to think, right, I need to sort of spend next year on my PR. It's about raising your visibility in all areas. Actually, I do have a prop. It's really embarrassing. I used to have a Pilates ball with lots of spikes off it, which did the same thing, but I couldn't find it. So I brought this amazing pen with lots of little things coming off it. What I like to think about, how I like to think about PR is, if you think about every wiggly little ball or spike from this, PR is about shooting from absolutely every angle. One of these is Instagram, one of these is TikTok, one of these is the website, one of these is being at top drawer. You have to sort of be everywhere. And I know that's not always possible, but you have to attempt it because your customers, whatever you do, whether you're a politician or you're selling candlesticks, your customer, your audience, will be in lots of different areas at the end of every single one of these balls. So always try a little bit of everything.
I am now going to say what every single founder in this audience is thinking, which is, I am exhausted. I am trying to do everything. I'm trying to be on Instagram and on TikTok, but I want to get in the press. Like, I want you to write about me as a journalist. So if I've got all of that other stuff ticked off, how do I get my name in the press? How do I get that headline that I can share on my social or share on my website?
Yeah, that's tricky. That's more, I like to hear that more when I start a call and they say, I need to be in the press, how do I do it? That's better, because it's obviously the harder step and it's a foreign language. But actually, you have to scale it right back. So journalists, believe it or not, are sometimes normal people, and I can say that because I am one. We are also on Instagram. We are also on Google late at night in the bath, wasting time scrolling through lots of things and whatever. We also are customers. We also have sisters and children and whatever to buy for. So we're also looking at products that we would like to gift to other people. We're not always looking for opportunities. So I would say, first and foremost, you don't have to be on every single one of the social media platforms. You need to attempt to find your audience via this method, yes. But who is your audience? Have you thought about who your perfect customer is? Are they really on TikTok? Is your time best spent on TikTok? And so on. All of this is important because A, you have very limited time. B, most people hate to do their PR, so make it easier for yourself. But C, there are journalists out there who are hawks and scouting all the time. That's how I get most of my ideas, I have to say. I mean, we all do. And, what you're saying, how you're dancing, what you're communicating, how relevant your message is so, so, so key. It can put someone off. It can make them think that you're not very serious. It can, via one post, make them think of a feature idea and you're at the center of it. So to get in the press, we can talk about that. That's about pitching to the press and to the correct press. But before you start that, I would say you have to better use your time and appear in places, now that we have social media and it's easier than ever to create a platform and say hello to everyone in the world. You have to make sure that you are using your time better and more efficiently. Don't use every social media platform because they are available to you. Does it match your brand? Is it important? What's the tone? Because that's basically half of the pitch to the journalist. Unfortunately, these days, when you pitch to a journalist, the first thing they'll do is look you up on Instagram or Twitter. And immediately it will say something about you, what they see. They don't scroll back 3 months. They look at the top 3 things that you have posted or the most recent things that you've discussed. And that should be doing half of the email pitch for you. So people get nervous about pitching to journalists in an email. But actually, my advice to that is always to be completely direct. Don't waffle. Don't talk about your greatest successes. Don't talk about your website. Just tell them exactly what it is that you want to tell them. They will find out the rest if they want to, but they will also form an opinion of you via the things that you have put out elsewhere. So you can actually reduce the amount of time you think about your PR if you're clever about it on a daily basis. And so I know it's hard, one wants to get into the press and thinks, okay, right, today it's Monday, and I'm going to try and do it. I understand that. I think that about cleaning. But actually, you've already done quite a bit of your PR by just, talking about it in other areas. So when you contact the correct journalist, you have to do some research. There is no shortcut there, I'm afraid. They will see that you are worth writing about, worth making that call and having that coffee with.
I always think it's so interesting when I'm in some kind of PR, like journalist groups, and when people put pictures, and these pictures are like, I've just launched like a new spoon collection. Write about my new spoon. It's kind of missing the angle. Like there always has to be a different kind of lifestyle angle or news angle, doesn't there? No one really cares about your new collection of teaspoons unless there's kind of something else to lead with. But I do remember a great piece of advice I was given that's always stuck with me, which is that, and you'll be able to tell me this, that journalists search their inbox by keywords. So they might not pick it up now, but as long as those keywords are in there, you could. Is that true?
Oh, yes. So we tend to switch off when we see a third party email us, because that suggests it's a PR agency, and historically they can be occasionally, don't want to be rude, occasionally slightly time-wasting, haven't quite got the right journalist, and you seem to be opening an email about a city in the north of England, and you're writing about interiors, and you're thinking, oh my God. So third-party person, you immediately switch off. Then you see a press release attached to the email, and you also totally switch off, but you never delete the email. So I still have the email about the city in North England or whatever. Why do we not delete? Oh, I don't know. There's just something in you that thinks, oh, that might be important at a later date. Luckily, it always is. And yes, so we don't delete anything. And certainly, imagine an editor comes to you and says, we're going to write about concrete sinks. That's what we're going to do. Concrete is the material of the future. You're in interiors column. I want to collate some ideas, X, Y, and Z. The first thing you do before Google and Instagram hashtagging is you check your inbox, because it's that point where you want to say, oh, I know all about it. I mean, I have a contact in the field. That's sort of how it works, yes. It works across the board like that, not just about concrete sinks or interiors. But our inbox is like our little black book. It's the address book. It helps you navigate and makes you feel like you know. It makes you realize, so this is quite interesting, because most people say to me, I don't know how to get to the journalist. What is their email address? Where do they live? How do I get to them? Well, I'm thinking the same thing. If I'm asked to write about concrete and I haven't got a clue where to start, genuinely, if someone has written about it to me, did you know that this is the greatest trend? I immediately know who to contact. They have served it to me on a platter, and I just think, oh, yes, no, don't worry, I know the person. And it absolutely works like that. And that is why, in summary, and jokes aside, contacting journalists is always worth it, because if you don't, you won't be the person that they find in that inbox search.
I love that. Such brilliant advice. Okay, so what we've learned today is that it's about laying the foundations. It's about baby steps. It's not about kind of going from zero to, I want my name up in lights in The Guardian. So the baby steps, bearing in mind the gloomy economy, the forecast, everything that's going on in the world right now, what can founders, entrepreneurs, business owners do? What are those baby steps that people can be doing right now in summary to kind of weather the storm of the next year?
Well, in times of economic strife, to do with retail, actually, well, in terms of promotion and PR, you shouldn't, I would say it's not what you do, but it's what you don't do, if that makes sense. So what I would not recommend is, and I've heard this already quite a few times this January, is my customer's not really buying. This is not really a market where anyone's feeling confident about spending money, so I'm not going to think about PR now. I'll think about it nearer Christmas when everyone comes to buy my candlesticks or candles. That's the wrong thing to do, because when people are nervous about spending, they're still looking and shopping with their eyes, putting everything in their basket, saving it. This is actually probably the time to be most proactive with your PR. Use it as a time to spring clean your business in that respect. It is difficult when things are tough. But like the property market, like the retail market in previous years, from 1929 onwards, things always recover. And what you want to be is in the perfect position when it recovers enough for you to be alluring again. Yesterday, I was here interviewing Kath Kidston and Tori Murphy, but Kath Kidston has been around a long time in business. She now runs a business called Joy of Print. She no longer runs Kath Kidston as we knew it. And I said to her, gosh, you must have seen so much difference. And social media was, invented during the time she was running her business. And but one of the things I did ask her is, you must have seen so many peaks and troughs. And she did, and she had, and she just said, you just carry on, you crack on. You have to work in other areas more than others when that sort of thing happens. But, I mean, my favorite kind of PR is reputation management. I love it when a corporate client comes to me and says, we are right down here because there's been a scandal, there's been a problem. I love it because the only way you can go is up. And you strategize your way out of a problem. But actually, let's not be too deep about it. You don't have to strategize yourself out of an economic problem which you can't solve. So you have to stay steady. You have to keep speaking to the press if that's your goal. You have to keep speaking to social media and the audience you have created there who tune in every day to hear what you've got to say. Just the most important thing is that you're writing to the correct journalist so that they've saved your email for a rosier time, or when they've got space in their columns, that you're speaking to the right social media audience so that you're not wasting really precious marketing time you've taken away from your business. Because time is precious, and you can use your time talking to your website designer about how your website looks and so on and so on. But actually, you have to use your time better, I think. There's a lot of time lost on social media. There is, I just think, sometimes investing so much in how you, the person, seems, sounds, looks like, dances like, points like, on Instagram, as an example, can actually take you away from selling to other people who, A, might not be on Instagram, B, use Instagram differently now after the lockdown. They don't instantly purchase. But then 3, I have examples of older people who are on Instagram but would never buy from Instagram because they're nervous about it. In certain ages, perhaps feel just a little bit, traditional forms of purchasing is where I'm at. And if you look at here today, what actually always works are traditional forms of promotion, which are standing at stands, having a chat, having a personal, rapport with someone immediately, or the press. People buy newspapers less. There's just less momentum there, and that's very sad. I'm a big newspaper girl, and I don't ever want to see them disappear. But things have changed, and that's fine. But what's interesting about the press is that when you achieve that press coverage, there is such gravitas in that. And so back to my weird analogy, or prop, you should never neglect any form of being able to communicate to an audience. And I think your original question was about economic strife, and it does go back to that. When you feel the odds are against you, well, raise them. Keep telling people that you're there. And actually, do you know what? In history, a lot of people have done very well out of scandals, strife. Some people are very awkward about it. Some people have made their millions out of it. Out of bad times always come good, and you want to be on those starting blocks, I'd say.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think one of my background is largely in paid media, paid marketing. And I think one of the best things about PR and economic turbulence is that most of it's free, isn't it? I know there's a huge cost to your time. I completely agree with that. But in terms of chipping away at that, so you are front and center when we do come out of this, and you can kind of accelerate out of that corner. A lot of it is just about being perseverance. That's not the word.
No, it is.
Persevering.
Definitely, perseverance is a word, and that's a good word to sum up today. PR. See, there's PR in it. Definitely. It's free. It's free to do your own promotion. It really is. Maybe not if you've paid for a stand here, but generally it's free. I suppose, what you want is not to, thinking about the stall analogy, it's very important to realize that you have created a stall by starting a business, or you're part of a business that has a stall. If someone walks past and sees the delicious cookies that you've got on your stall, but you're not there to sell it to them, to take their cash or their card, they walk on to the next one. And so if you're happy to have that stall and you are proud of it, stand up and be there and promote it. And it's free to do that. And often the reason why social media has worked for a lot of people is that you can add a sort of personality element, which is superb. That's what works at that stall, at the Christmas school fair, when you have a bit of a joke about being slightly hungover or you've dropped water all over your shoes. It makes someone laugh and think, I bet their cookies are delicious as well. But my only fear with social media, or not fear, but my hiccup is that I think there's a lot of dependency on it because people see that it's free. And when people say to me, Priscilla, I'm delighted to have this session with you because I need to think about my PR, I think, well, no. There's no difference. The difference is you've got to email journalists who are not as scary as you think. They need copy just as much as you need the coverage. They need ideas just as much as you need the coverage. So social media can take a little bit too much time away from what you're selling. People fall into a bit of a vortex of telling them about children, where they're going today. That's fine, it does add the personal element, but there's a slight moment where people end up tuning in for that, but they don't tune in to buy. And I think Reels have been obviously a big hit, and everyone knows about those on Instagram. But what I find is that the higher the number, the higher your popularity becomes, but the higher the popularity, not the higher success. So my numbers are always really low, but if I have inquiries after a reel, I'm thinking, cool, job done. That took me 5 minutes. I think I did that. I put a filter on because I haven't got any makeup on. Done. 10 minutes. I haven't, and 7 people have asked me, can I ask for your help in private and pay for a session? Great. But I think if I'm seeing 17,000 on a reel, but I don't have 17,000 sales or whatever, I don't know, there's a slight moment where I think, could I have used that time differently today? Could I have emailed 10 journalists? Maybe not 10, but 5? Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely something about making the platforms work for us rather than us working for them, isn't there? Thank you for that. What an enlightening session. So I guess in summary, we're saying it's baby steps, it's about chipping away, and it's about laying the foundations right now it's not necessarily a seed that's going to flower overnight, but it's about planting that seed, watering it, and chipping away at all of the Sputniks on your pen topper.
Yeah. You can't always be shooting from all of these sides, absolutely not. But you've got to recognize that they exist, and PR is, I don't know, I really want to change those 2 letters, as it really freaks people out. PR is not contacting journalists. PR is how you sound, how you look, how you seem, what you sell, what you say, how you dance maybe. But it's everything. It's a full picture. And you should be chipping away at it absolutely every single day. If you don't look after your basil plant on your windowsill, it will. So you have to be watering it every day. It's part of your business. If somebody called you up or wrote you a message and said, "Oh, actually, the Shopify element on your website has broken," you'd immediately go to it and fix it because it's important. Otherwise, no one can buy from your website that day. And I'd say the same with PR. You need to always invest time in making yourself seem approachable, buyable, and so on. Yeah, so baby steps, but always baby steps daily if you can.
Thank you so much. I think that was really useful. Thanks, Priscilla.
Any questions? Okay, oh, there's one there.
Hello, I'm a new brand, reasonably new, and I'm struggling to get enough good imagery of my work to then do the PR section to send to journalists.
If you're looking to send products as a cutout image, that does take a little bit of doing because that needs to be done professionally. Journalists hate receiving a picture that you sent from your iPhone if it's for a roundup for which they need a cutout. But otherwise, these are the sort of hurdles that I want you just to push to one side. Because in an email, it depends what you do, but it depends. In an email, a journalist actually just wants to be sold an idea. The rest comes later, even if the photography hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened, but it's not where I want it to be yet.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
They want to be sold the idea.
Okay.
Because if it's just trying to think, but it's a bit like training for the marathon, but then forgetting to enter.
Okay.
So you might have had a fantastic set of photo shoots, but they don't want you in their column.
Yeah.
I would secure the interest and then get what they want. That is mostly, and often when you don't, they do it for you.
All right. Okay. It's it's wallpapers, so it's quite
wallpaper.
Yeah, it's quite niche.
Yeah, I would. Because it's niche, you have to sell the idea to it. So there will be something on the wallpaper which will be different to someone else's wallpaper.
Yeah.
I assume
Yes.
hand painted or.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, hand painted. I had a client yesterday who was talking about that exact thing. Okay, so your background will be important there, what kind of an artist you are, the fact that it's hand-drawn, hand-painted, it's not being done in a factory, it's obviously made in England. One of the things that I didn't mention, when you pitch to journalists or anyone, there are storylines attached to every pitch, which will make it alluring and interesting to whoever you're pitching to. Made in England, the Mummy and Me market, all sorts of things are huge. So if your wallpaper, definitely made in England, but if your wallpaper is beautiful and dainty enough for potentially a nursery or a child's bedroom, again, that opens the Mummy and Me market.
Okay.
That opens you up to about 5 or 6 new publications.
Right. Okay.
If you're looking at a big wall of publications in a newsagent or in a supermarket, if you change your pitch, you'll realize that the pitch now opens you up to another. Yeah.
That's
so have a
amazing,
think. So it's the idea behind the product before they even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Hello. On the topic of pitches, what is the worst pitch you've ever heard from someone as a journalist yourself, and how can we avoid being that worst pitch?
So easily. In December, I received an email from someone who thought I was still working at the Telegraph, so that wasn't researched very well. That ended in 2013. Anyway, doesn't matter, still got to me. Weirdly, it got to me on my non-Telegraph email, but it said, for your Telegraph column, I would love to suggest. Then the suggestion was to talk about theme parks and had rated Alton Towers before Legoland, and I don't know where Chessington World of Adventures sat, but it was incongruous at best. It was just so weird. I mean, I've never written about theme parks, but I wasn't going to start then. So it's when, and I'm a nice journalist, so I laugh about it, but most people, swear. But it's when something is completely not connected. It's an so imagine you've given yourself 20 minutes every Monday morning, oh, that sounds awful, to do your pitching. You've wasted 5 minutes sending it to someone who genuinely will either laugh at you, delete it, never speak to you again, think, what a loon. You know, that's how you can avoid it, doing your research. People always say, Priscilla, who are the best journalists for my X and Y market? I never say, this is the journalist for you, unless we're talking politics or business, because actually it's the publication you should be going after, okay? Anyone, if the tone is right, if they've featured people like you before, I think journalists also have big egos. They love flattery. They love to know that you know what they write about. So if someone goes, oh, I read your roundup in the Sunday Times, or I saw your roundup and you did a fantastic job on showing off X and Y's products, I'd love to introduce you to mine. They'd be like, oh, gosh, he obviously turns to my name every Sunday. Not true. But it's very much do your research and you will be closer and closer to getting the correct person. But certainly the wrong thing would be to just think, I can go and have my chocolate cake now because I've written to a journalist. If it's not the right one, it's been a wasted attempt.